Hey guys, before we get going, a couple of disclaimers. Number one, there will be spoilers ahead. So if you haven't seen The Last of Us Season 1, or if you would like to play The Last of Us games with a fresh perspective, you might want to stop the video here. You've been warned. Also, I am not a gamer. I've clocked less than an hour of gameplay playing The Last of Us. I was not the gamer in our household. Marsha was. In fact, that is the reason why I almost didn't watch this show. Marsha had a very terrible job. Not in the sense that she was not treated well and she wasn't compensated well. She was treated well and compensated well, and her job gave her benefits, but her job was an abuse counselor for the state of Florida. And that meant that she had to uh, learn about all these terrible cases of abuse in where we lived, but a lot of them dealing with children and the elderly. According to the rules of her job, she was only supposed to do that job for 4 years, and that's it. That's the limit, because it takes its toll mentally. She did it for 6, and it really damaged her emotionally. And one of the many suggestions that she was given to deal with the trauma of her job and learning about all these cases was to play video games, believe it or not. Because learning about all these cases where people are being mistreated and not being able to do anything about it, like her job was just to analyze these cases and talk to the people involved via the phone and then pass the information along to the next person. It would make her feel powerless. It would make her feel just completely vulnerable, like she had no control over what was happening. Video games, on the other hand, the control is literally in your hands. You're put into terrible, dangerous situations, but there is a way out. There is some form, some fashion, some action that you can take in which you can get out of those terrible situations. And one of the top games that she connected with during this time was The Last of Us. About this average man protecting this little girl against all these horrible things. And she took the games very seriously, very personally. It was very important to her to beat the games, figure out how to protect Ellie, how to get Ellie where she needed to go. It mattered to her. And it mattered to me. I didn't play. During her last few years, I was pretty depressed and sad for other reasons. And that became frustration, and I didn't want to let out my frustration on other people, especially not my wife. So I would let it out on inanimate things, if my computer didn't work, and so on and so on. And one of the things that, for whatever reason, I decided to let out my frustration on was video games. And if a video game was too difficult, too challenging, if I would get stuck, I would immediately get angry with it and abandon it. And one of the many video games that I just abandoned was The Last of Us. So I would vicariously enjoy it through Marsha. Occasionally, of course, she was human, she would get stuck as well. While she was the gamer, she wasn't perfect at it. She would get stuck, and I would, sheepishly ask, "Oh, could I give it a try? And I would grab the controller, try the level that she was stuck in, and of course I wouldn't fare any better. She would take a break, come back, pick up the controller again, and now all of a sudden she would do great. And she could beat it. But I remember trying the level where Ellie's trying to get away from David, and they're in the bar, and the bar is on fire. I remember trying that, did terrible, and of course she came back, she beat it. And the level, which I think is the final level of the first game, where Joel is in the hospital, and he's fighting off the fireflies to rescue Ellie. I gave that a shot, did terrible. But then she, of course, figured it out. And she really, really, really loved the part where Joel and Ellie come across a giraffe. She just absolutely loved that. Just a glimmer of hope, a glimmer of beauty in this really ugly world. Anyway, so after much deliberation, the day of the show's premiere came, and I just decided to bite the bullet and check it out. And that was mostly due to, believe it or not, the casting. Not only was it announced that many of the actors that were involved with the game were going to be in it, but that Pedro Pascal was playing Joel. There was this amazing Hispanic actor playing the main character in this multi-million-dollar franchise. So, of course, I had to check it out. I have to support him. He's an actor that Marsha also loved, not because of The Mandalorian, but believe it or not, because of his involvement in the Kingsman franchise. Marsha loved the Kingsman movies. She didn't give a fuck what anything negative that anybody said about them. She absolutely loved those movies. Especially Taron Egerton. She was all about Taron Egerton. And she really liked Pedro Pascal's character. Tequila, I believe, was his character's name. I apologize if I got that wrong. So, oh, also, quick fun sidebar about her love of The Last of Us. Well, she loved to play the game and knew everything about the story of the game and all that. She's not like me, and she doesn't need to know every little factoid, behind-the-scenes factoid about the things that she loved. So I didn't know this, but she had no idea who the actors were who played the characters. And one of our favorite shows to watch together was Drunk History. And they did an episode about pinball and how this man, pinball was being accused of being the same as gambling. That actually happened. And at the very, very beginning of the episode, during the cold opening, Derek Waters goes to a video game convention, and he's trying out different video games and asking people questions. And one of the among the many people that he interviews during this segment, he interviewed Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson, the original Joel and Ellie from the video game. And we're going past, this cold opening, and I spot them, and I pause the TV, and I point at the TV, and I turn to her, and I go, "Do you know who those people are?" And she's like, "No." "That's Joel and Ellie." He's like, oh, wow. And she looks at Ashley Johnson, it's like, "She's a grown-up." He's like, "Yeah, she can play a kid. She's just an actor." So that always tickled me, that she just wasn't that type of person who needed to know how the sausage is made. She didn't need to know every little background fact about the things that she loved. She just knew that she loved them. That's it. Anyway, so back on the subject of Pedro Pascal, I am so proud of him, and he did such an extraordinary job on this show, as I expected him to do. But The Last of Us is not the story of just Joel. It's the story of Joel and Ellie. And one of my main concerns going into this show was if Bella Ramsey was gonna live up to, the legend that is Ellie. And oh my God, did she live up to it? Holy shit, what an incredibly talented young actor. I cannot give this young lady enough compliments. And also, is it just me? Am I just projecting? Or when I look at her and I see her performance as Ellie, am I the only one who sees like a young Ashley Johnson? Just, she does, her voice and her mannerisms. Ashley Johnson was an actor that I grew up with. You know, she's been in sitcoms and movies and cartoons since I was a really little kid. So I have a very, very clear image of who or what Ashley Johnson was like when she was little. And I look at Bella Ramsey and I'm like, wow, it's like they're really related. Like they could be sister or actually mother and daughter, like the show presents. And I cannot thank the show creators enough for including so many actors from the game, not just Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson, but Mary Dandridge playing Marlene, who she played Marlene in the game, and now she's playing it in live action. That blew my mind. Jeffrey Pierce, who plays Tommy, Joel's brother in the game, was in the show as Perry, who was Kathleen's main henchman. He looked like an absolute badass with that beard. I didn't recognize him when I first watched that episode, and then later, there were pictures of him all over social media, and I was like, oh my god, that was Jeffrey Pierce. And of course, the goddess herself, Laura Bailey, even got a cameo during the last episode as one of the nurses that was going to assist during Ellie's surgery. A quick fact about the casting of the video game that I think is interesting, because it ties into why I feel that this franchise works, not just from the video game, but through the show as well. If anything, this is a story of love. And I feel that it was on the right track from the beginning because the casting also reflected that. Ashley Johnson has stated that when she went through the very long casting process for the game, after a while it became pretty evident that they wanted her to be Ellie, but they haven't quite found Joel yet. So, and she knew this because they kept bringing her in over and over again to read with opposite to other actors. And she was always Ellie, and she was reading opposite to other actors. So she felt like, okay, I have this in the bag. All I have to do is nail a chemistry read with another actor, and I got the job. So she went in one day to read with two actors. The first one will remain unnamed. The unnamed actor sat down to read with her, and it was this generic scene where the two characters are arguing with one another, and the argument intensifies as they go along. And Ashley decided to accentuate one of her lines by giving her scene partner a little shove, and I guess he took that as a cue and pushed her back, but pushed her so hard that she fell down. And the moment that she fell down, Neil Druckmann stopped the audition right there. They asked that actor to leave, and they checked on Ashley. Are you okay? Blah, blah, blah. Do you want to keep going? And she was distraught and everything, but she was like, no, I can, you know, do one more. I can, you know, there's another actor waiting. He deserves a chance to audition. I'll do it. But again, she was noticeably not okay. So the second actor that day that was auditioning for Joel was Troy Baker. And Troy walked in. He didn't introduce himself to the creators. He just went straight to Ashley. He bent down and he kneeled in front of her and said, "Can I give you a hug?" And he hugged Ashley, and she immediately lit up and, you know, got her mind right again. And he sat down, they auditioned, it was perfect. And the point is that the genesis of these two characters started with love, started with kindness. And so much so that Troy Baker has remained a close personal friend of Ashley Johnson to this very day, where he has guest starred on Critical Role with her. He has guest starred on The Legend of Vox Machina with her. They developed a tight bond. And now the fact that they were both asked to do cameos, to do guest appearances in this show, it shows how integral they are to this franchise. And that, in my opinion, is just beautiful. And as per usual, you know, to me, the story behind the story is 10 times more fascinating. And my God, did this not disappoint. Anyway, so this show had the propensity for having cool action sequences and cool, terrifying horror moments, but then having the occasional episode that would just rip your guts out, that would just, oh my God, that would just traumatize you. It was so sad. They had quite a few. I think that the one that struck people the most was episode 3, Long Time, which is the one where it shows the life of Bill and Frank, which is just like a quick throwaway line in the video game that they were together and then one of them committed suicide. But here they show you their full lives together. And wow, there's some people that are pointing at this episode and saying that it was just filler. And that's not true. You know, this is an essential part of the story because it shows you why what's happening is emotionally striking. It shows you that there's a possibility that people can survive even in this horrible, horrible circumstance that everybody is in. And that love is possible, even though Joel feels like it isn't. So all those people saying that these are filler episodes, it just shut the hell up. You don't know what you're talking about. Of course, the other one that, the one that struck me the most, the one that just left me just unconsolable, was episode 5, Endure and Survive, when Ellie and Joel are traveling, I believe, through Kansas, and they are being helped by this young man and his little brother, and they're helping each other get out of town. And of course it ends with the little boy getting infected and becoming a clicker, and his older brother has to take him out, and then he kills himself. And that, oh man, that weighed so freaking heavy. I did not expect that. I didn't expect things to go well because of the type of show that this is, but boy, did I underestimate the level of trauma that this show was going to deal. Man. And the other episode that affected a lot of people heavy, not as much me, but episode 7, Left Behind, which is the episode where we get to see Ellie's last night with Riley, her only friend and her potential girlfriend. Personally, you know, it was well played, and the two young ladies did a spectacular job performing in this episode, and it was really well made. But, you know, from my perspective, I kind of saw it coming. I knew this was Ellie's origin. I knew this was when Ellie got bit, so I assumed that she either got bit during an attack where Riley also got bit, or that Riley got bit first, becomes a clicker, and one day Ellie would have gone to see her at the mall, and she would have been a clicker, and then Ellie would have gotten bitten, and then they discover that she's immune, bloppity blue. So I knew, I had a lot of anticipation as to what was going to happen, And then when they both got bit, it wasn't that graphic. They just sat there together and they decided to wait and see what happened. Then it was revealed via dialogue that, as we would assume, Riley turned into a clicker first, and Ellie unfortunately had to kill her, which is horrific. But we didn't see it, and that's the reason it didn't weigh as heavy with me. But if it weighed heavy with you, I totally get it. Anyway, so why do I think this show is great, or better than most zombie or post-apocalyptic zombie franchises these days? Because this show leans more towards substance than shock value. I think a lot of these post-apocalyptic, zombie franchises, they really lean into the shock value and the murder and the mayhem and the gore and killing off characters just because it's shocking in a very horrific and violent way, while this show focuses on the relationships of the characters and what really makes zombie movies and shows work, which is the human characters. From the very beginning, from the very first movie to have zombies as we know them, Night of the Living Dead, the movie focuses primarily on the surviving humans surviving in the house, and their conflict against each other. The zombies are just the thing that they're trying to survive, but they're not the main focus of the movie. And it's the same thing here. The clickers are there. The peril is always around them, but that is not the focus. The focus is the people and what they're doing and what they will do to survive. So yeah, just nothing but respect to the creators of the video game and by and large the show, because they figured out what worked and they stuck with it. And I feel that as long as the characters work and as long as the relationships work, the show will continue to be as extraordinary as it is. Anyway, so the $1 million question, the question that everybody on social media was arguing back and forth about last night, Joel's final decision to save Ellie as opposed to save the world. Do I support it, or do I think he's an idiot? Or do I think he's selfish? The answer is that I am 100% on Joel's side. I get it. I get what he's coming from. He lost the most important person in his life, the person he loved the most. Here, via a series of crazy circumstances, he gets a second chance. He has this second surrogate daughter who risked her life for him, who saved him. And now they're just going to kill her off to create this cure for the cordyceps virus without even considering any other method. So he wasn't about to just sit there and let it happen again. He wasn't gonna let another daughter die in his watch, especially after going through 20 years in which he was transformed into somebody that can do something about it. So he put all of his skills to work. He took those motherfuckers out and he saved her. Because now he had the power to do it, and so he did it. He was given a second chance, and he took it. Obviously, there will be consequences, but we'll see that when we get to the second season, which I believe we will not see until 2025, which sounds crazy, but it is what it is. We'll see it then. We'll see what happens then. So now that I am done watching the show where Pedro Pascal is a badass, mysterious lone warrior transporting a child across a dangerous landscape, I think I'm going to start watching the show where Pedro Pascal is a badass, lone, mysterious warrior transporting a child across a dangerous landscape. You know, just for variety's sake. Anyway, also, just all those critics that when this show premiered were saying that this show ended the video game curse. The video game curse ended with Detective Pikachu. Okay, when that movie became a critical and financial success, the video game curse ended. And there have been plenty of good video game adaptations between Detective Pikachu and The Last of Us, okay? So this delusion that, oh, the video game curse is never ending, and now this Soul TV show is getting all the credit for ending it. I love this show, it's great, but it does not deserve the credit for ending the video game curse. Anyway, a quick few announcements before I sign off. If you want to support me, if you want to watch bonus videos, I do E-Rants all the time, just like this, on many different shows and movies. And I also did a video where I revealed the contents of the Justice League script that I wrote when I was 12 years old. And you can check out all of that and support me on my Patreon page at patreon.com/erod. You can have access to all those videos with a pledge of $1. That's it, $1. You're supporting me. I can continue being the Blockbuster Buster and continue creating content here on YouTube. And in return, you get bonus videos. You can't beat that with a wooden stick. Also, I'm sorry for delaying this for yet another week, but my grandmother passed away this past week, and it was a roller coaster to get to Puerto Rico and then get back here. So it was just another delay. That's why I'm doing this video instead of delivering scripted content that you guys want. But there are scripted videos on the way. I promise you, next Wednesday, you will get the Legends of Fandom video where I talk about Justice League Mortal, the Justice League movie that almost happened. And that will happen next Wednesday the 22nd. I am literally editing the video as you are watching this right now. Excuse me. And also, my honest review of Kim Possible is also going to happen. It's written, it's filmed. I just have to sit down and edit it and put it all together for you guys to enjoy. Anyway, that's it. Thank you so much for listening to my crazy random fanboy thoughts on this amazing franchise. Feel free to voice your opinion in the comment section below. As per usual, I ask you to be civil with one another and respect each other's opinions, whatever they might be. There is no reason for conflict in the comment section. We're all on the same team. And as I always end all of these videos, and I say this every time because it is 100% true, thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I could not do what I do without you.